There's a quote that says, if God is the ocean, I am the cup. Take a scoop of the ocean, got a cup of the ocean. That's me.
No, I don't wanna collab. No, unless I hit you up.
I admittedly am a little anxious, nervous. I don't know if either of those words fit what I'm feeling very well, but this is different. This is uncomfortable for me, but this is part of what I need to be doing. So there's nothing to it but just to fucking do it. So this is me doing it. Honestly, the entire purpose of this video is just so that when the videos to come, there are no questions. Like, I'm just going to reference this. Like, okay, if you're curious, this. Or if you ask me about this, go watch that one. So this is kind of just me like laying the foundation for some of the conversations and topics that are to come in the future. I do have the YouTube memberships. There are 3 tiers, and in the highest tier, there's exclusive content that is just like a different side of me that I am introing to my general population of subscribers, but it's a little bit more sacred and special to me, so that requires a energy exchange that just happens to be monetary. It's nothing crazy, but if you are interested in the membership that is available to you, I'll have the different tiers on the screen. I do have a membership announcement that breaks out those 3 memberships, the price, what you get, what you don't get, don't have a fit, all of those things. All right, so that's my super long intro that I'm sure I'll have to edit. I want to talk to you guys about my spiritual, religious beliefs and journey through the years, because it's going to be like fundamentally important for those who are going to continue along this journey with me, and especially for those that are in tier 3, the divine members of my membership. It's going to be really important that you guys kind of have this understanding of me, so that the things that I speak about and the way that I speak and the things that I'm sharing just make sense, so you understand where I am, why I am, and how I am. All right, so long story short, I'm going to be going through a couple of things with you guys. I have notes to keep me on track because this is such a broad and expansive and continuing to expand topic for me that I need to just make sure you guys get the basics, the fundamentals of who I am in my spirituality, and how I got here. So basically, the way that I've broken up this video is I have a few disclaimers that I want to go through. These are the only disclaimers I am allowed to make. Otherwise, I am speaking from my heart and my truth, and there is no reason for me to disclaim anything. So the couple of disclaimers that I have at the beginning are the only ones that I'm going to do. Everything else, unapologetic. You get what you get. This is me. That's how this video is going to be broken out. My disclaimers, my history, and like how I was brought up, so my upbringing, what transitions I went through life and how that affected my upbringing versus where I am now, and where I am now, what are the things that I believe in and how I function in my spirituality. So if you're interested in that, after this long intro, if you are interested in those topics, just keep on watching. Alrighty, so as for my disclaimers, I just have a couple. Number 1, my spiritual beliefs are not religiously rooted, if that makes sense. So I do not identify with any type of organized religion. There are reasons for that. But I just say that because if you are a super Christian, this is not your opportunity to try to get me to give my life over to Jesus Christ. I am not asking for any guidance. I am not impeding on anybody's beliefs. I don't believe that anybody's beliefs are necessarily wrong or right. I believe that what you do for you it holds a purpose for your journey. This is my journey. We're talking about my journey. I'm not trying to get anybody to believe what I believe. It's just important that you understand what I believe to understand me. Are we good? Okay. Disclaimer number 2, which I kind of already got into because I got a little passionate there. Like I said, I am just sharing a piece of myself. I am not trying to get anybody to believe the things that I believe, follow the things that I believe. My intention is that people get the inspiration to go within and figure out what aligns with them. I don't plan on really sharing any of my spiritual practices or things that I do on a personal level, or at least right now, I have not been guided to do that. That is personal to me, so I will keep it to me. We are just going over the fundamentals. If I had to add one more, I would probably also just say what I've said in plenty of videos. If you're not good and you're not good, don't bring that over here. This is a loving, respectful, open-minded, open heart platform, at least on this channel. So I plan to keep it that way. I will block you. I do not care. I am not here to argue with anybody. I am not here to exchange that type of battle, because that's what it ends up being. If you are strong in your beliefs and you are not open-minded to understand other people's beliefs or even make room for it, find somewhere on the internet to be. There's plenty of places. This is not the place. We are open-minded here. We speak from love, and you're going to speak to me with love. Okay. So there's that. Okay. So now that we've gone through house rules, I do want to give you a little bit of insight into my upbringing. I was raised a Christian. My mom is still a Christian. My dad, I think he's fluid, to be honest. We haven't gotten really deep into those conversations. My grandparents, Christians. My family, Christians for the most part. But we do have some open-minded, kind of fluid people sprinkled in there. So I was raised very much Christian, not attached to any specific, I don't even know what denomination, like Baptist, Presbyterian. I never had an awareness of that. All I know is we go to church on Sundays. We spend all major holidays in church. I'd never been trick-or-treating as a child because we went to Hallelujah night, or we went to skating ring, or we did the trunk or treat things. New Year's Eve, we were at church to bring in the new year. We fasted, all of those things. So I very much grew up a Christian, and that did not change until probably my mid-20s is when I finally was like, okay, I don't really identify with that anymore. We'll get into how that happened, but I want to go through 3. I think there's 3. Let me double check my notes. Yes. 3 like major things that have attributed to why I no longer identify as a Christian. And it actually started as a kid. So I remember 6-year-old me, like I said, we were always in church, very involved. I remember several instances in church that did not have to do with like how other people acted. Let me make that very clear. This was all internalized thought processes, awarenesses, feelings that I felt growing up in church that had nothing to do with anybody else necessarily. So the first, I've always been very observant. Like I said, I've always been very self-aware. So I never resonated with the fact that, okay, I have to come to this place where this man is up on a stage and he's guiding me through the Bible, but he's essentially telling me how to have my relationship with God. But at the same time, we've always been told that your relationship with God is personal, specifically when you speak in tongues. I remember the first time I heard my dad or saw my dad catch the Holy Ghost and speak in tongues, and I didn't understand it. So when it was being explained to me, they're like, that is your communication. That language is specific to you and God, direct. This we hear, right? So on one side, you're telling me that my relationship with God is personal to me, to the point where I can speak another language that only me and God can understand. But on the other side, you're telling me I have to do this and do this and do this and do this and do this to have a correct relationship with God. To me as a child, I didn't understand that. Why are you telling me how I should be doing it? Maybe I was a little stubborn, but I didn't feel it. It wasn't working for me. 2, as a child and moving into my teenage years, the fact that from childhood up into early adulthood, I was always in the church and I never physically or emotionally felt connected was weird to me. I was like, I don't understand like what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing all the things. I'm showing up. I'm believing. I'm reading. Like just me knowing who I am now and to know how emotionally connected I am to other people and to things and how deeply I feel. The fact that I never felt that connection to the God that I was being taught was kind of like, interesting. So those are two through like early childhood and teenage years. I got to college. I got to college in 2012, 2013, graduated in 2016. And I went through a lot of shit in college, as we all do in our 20s. One day on the membership side, I'll get into details of that. But for today's purposes, I went through a 6-month depression my senior year of college. And it was bad. I don't think anybody, we are not crying on the internet today, Denasiha. That's not what this is. Okay. Okay. But I went through a 6-month depression. There were only 2 or 3 people that really knew what was going on with me. And I went to college away from home. And ultimately, during that 6 months, I was crying my eyes out every single night. I'm praying every single night. I'm doing all the things that they say you're supposed to do when you are in that phase to keep believing and trusting and da-da-da-da. And because I already was disconnected and I never felt that connection with God, I was waiting for like this God to, I was waiting to feel something, to hear something, to see something, to have a dream. Like I was waiting for some type of sign or connectedness or whatever you want to call it from this God, and it never happened. And after 6 months, I was like, I'm tired of feeling like this. Like essentially that was, I remember laying in the bed, bawling my eyes out, and I made the decision in my head that I don't want to feel like this anymore. Therefore, I am not going to feel like this anymore. And I know that there are a lot of ways that could be perceived through different religions and different beliefs. But for me, in that moment in 2015, I think it was 14, I don't know, whatever. In that moment, 20-something me that had been depressed for 6 months and decided not to be depressed because I ain't hear God, I didn't see God, I didn't feel God. I learned my own strength. Again, I am not here to argue any religious belief or spiritual beliefs. I'm talking about how I felt. In that moment that I made the decision and then acted on that decision, that came from me, and I learned my own strength. I'll kind of like keep it there and then we'll add on to that later. So that was a transformational moment for me with a lot of other things that were going on. That's really just, those minor details aren't important at this time. So we talked about how as a kid, I never really felt connected and how I had my own sense of awareness. We talked about as a young adult, how I went through some of the hardest time of my life and kind of pulled myself out of it and kind of learned something new about myself outside of a religion. And then I also want to add that through my entire life, and especially now, I have always had a certain intuition, and especially centered around my dreams. That is a gift of mine. My dreams, my foresight, and my intuition. Once again, I'm not going to get into too many details about that right now, but because of those 3 things within me, that has also affected my spiritual beliefs. So those are kind of like 3 big transformations, I don't know what to call it, but like moments in my life that kind of took me away from my identification as a Christian into my current spiritual beliefs. So there's that. The next thing on the list is to go through what my current beliefs are. I'm going to struggle with this a little bit, not because I don't have an understanding of what I believe, but because it is hard to make other people understand what I believe and what I don't believe. I cannot put a title or a label on it. Like I said, I don't believe in organized religion. I'm struggling a little bit. I can do this though. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know how I was about when I was talking about my natural hair. I was very big on finding what works for you. Like there can be a foundation, there could be certain steps that you follow, but how you follow those steps are going to be very specific to you. I strongly believe the same thing when it comes to religions or spirituality. So the things that I believe, it is kind of cherry picking, if I have to be honest. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that. But it all kind of like, how do I do? Like fruit salad is fruit salad. You got different type of fruit, but it's still a fruit salad. Does that make sense? That is ridiculous, but that's the only way that I can really describe it. If I had to pick like foundations that would make sense to other people, number one, I am strongly connected to nature, period. Very, very, very connected to earth, nature, all things that is earth and nature. Okay. I also find I'm very grounded in African spirituality and hoodoo because I am American. I'm an African American. I have a lot of interest in hoodoo, but I feel very grounded in African spirituality and those beliefs. But in addition to that, so when it comes to the mind and the body and the physical, I feel very connected to Buddhism and Hinduism. So that's what I mean by it's kind of like cherry picking. There are certain beliefs on certain things that is not all encompassing in one belief system for me as an individual. But I am a very curious, and as ditzy as I might be sometimes, I'm an intellectual. I'm a history nerd. I like to research. I like to read, in a sense. And I have a very large thirst for information. So I seek out information. I don't just see something on the internet and run with it. I want to dig deep into those things. So I do that, and I'm educated in that way on the things that interest me. And when I do that, I pick what I feel aligns with me and the things that I believe. So it is what it is. With that, there are a few kind of like big miscellaneous things that I feel like will be follow-up questions that I want to just go ahead and knock it out right now. Do I believe in God? Yes. However, I do not believe in a external physical person God as like Christianity, kind of like, okay, you have God as this white or black man with a beard, and no, I don't subscribe to that. When I think of God, I think of God as a consciousness or I don't want to use the word energy because that is very misused, especially in like this new age spirituality thing. When I think of God, there's a quote that says, if God is the ocean, I am the cup. Take a scoop of the ocean, got a cup of the ocean. That's me. So God is not external to me. God is not external to anybody. God is a mindset, a consciousness. God is love within each person. So it is a collective state of being, if that makes sense. When I reference and I say spirit, and you will hear that a lot because when I'm talking of like, oh, I was meditating or I was praying and spirit said to me, when I say that, to me, my spirit team or my guides who I know on the spiritual side are supporting me. None of these things are separate from me. All of these things are internal. So I have the God in me. I have those who came before me that walk with me. I have guides and angels. I'm saying angels so that it makes sense to other people, that walk with me and support me on the spiritual side. And then I have this version of myself that knows everything that I could ever possibly know about what's best for me, what isn't good for me, how I should be aligned, and what I should be doing. That is my higher self, and I connect with her, who is me. Those that get it, okay? So when I say spirit, it is this collection of this spirit team: God, ancestors, guides, higher self. That is my spiritual team that I believe is all within me, but it's just different pieces to the puzzle. Yeah. When it comes to like heaven and hell, I do believe in those, but once again, not a physical, external place the way that some religions try to make it seem. I believe that heaven and hell are states of being. They're states of being, their mindset. So you could be, when they say heaven on earth, you can be in a mindset of heaven. You can be in a mindset of hell. It just depends on what you have going on internally and where you are spiritually and physically and mentally. I didn't think that this was going to be this hard to explain because I understand it, but explaining it is way different than understanding it. So that's something I'm going to work on. We'll see how I piece this video together. Okay. Whew. This is a challenge. And then a couple of other things that I want to just kind of clear up and talk about. When it comes to like new age spirituality, I feel like it is very social media heavy. And it's like, while I do learn from some things like that, I think a lot of people mess up when they don't go within and figure out what aligns with them, or they don't do the research behind just like a blanket statement that people are saying. A good example would be like when manifestation was like booming. It's still booming, but like everyone's like, here's how you manifest, and they give you A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It doesn't work like that. You could do all of those steps, but if you haven't gone within and aligned yourself with those things, writing it down on a piece of paper is not going to do jack shit for you. Sorry. But there's a lot of inner work that has to be done for these things to work. So when it comes to like people saying that they believe in witchcraft, if you go buy a spell book and like do that, but you haven't done any internal work, you haven't aligned yourself with the right things, you haven't even done the research other than reading that thing, it doesn't work like that. So I'm not a witch. I have my own. It's not that I don't believe in witchcraft. Witchcraft does not align with me and my beliefs and how I maneuver. When it comes to like spiritual tools like sage and crystals and candles and things like that, I do utilize spiritual tools. That is not something that I plan on going into depth with or sharing with people. But the way that I like to describe it, if you haven't noticed, I like to use analogies because it clicks for me that way. So I feel like it'll click for others that way. But if you meet someone that says, oh yeah, I went to school for architecture, I am an architect. So that architect that has that knowledge and has the wisdom and knows what to do and what to use to create a house, they are using tools to do it. So the hammer, the knife, what? Excuse me. The hammers, the nails, the wood, the bricks all build the house. But it's the architect that's doing it because he or she has the knowledge to do that. When it comes to like spirituality and spiritual tools, crystals, sage, candles, herbs, things like that, those are tools that you have to have the knowledge to use to be able to create the thing. Y'all got it? Does that make sense? So yes, I'm a crystal girly. I'm a sage girly. I use candles. I do things like that. I like to work with nature and the elements and the moon and all of those things. But those are just tools and systems that I use with the knowledge that I have and that I gain. And that is very specific to me. So I do not watch a TikTok and then go do it and think I'm going to get a new Benz. No, sir. No, ma'am. I got through everything. Yeah, this is who I am. While I want to say I hope that it makes sense, if it doesn't, that's fine. It'll make sense to the people that it's supposed to make sense to, for, whatever. And again, I just really wanted to have a point of reference so that when I am speaking on things in the future, you understand where I'm coming from. And if it seems like I'm kind of all over the place with certain things, it's because I am, because that's how life is. And I am continuing to learn and grow and maneuver through my life for my purpose, not anyone else's. So yeah, that was a lot, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, that's okay. I got other things for you to enjoy. And if you don't enjoy my shit, there's plenty of shit on YouTube. So go check out somebody else's shit. But I do appreciate your time and energy today, you guys. Don't forget, as always, to check in and subscribe to yourself before you subscribe to me or anybody else. But if you're good and you don't think I'm a complete fucking weirdo, you can subscribe to my channel as well. I'll see you guys next time.